starting to discuss Standard 4, which is the Instructional Materials. And I need to find my book, which is set down over here. So
Did you record?
I think so. I meant to. I clicked it, so hopefully. And I'm hoping that it works well. Okay, so we are on General Standard 4, and what our agenda looks like today. Let me pull up our agenda. I hope that Mark King will be here. He agreed. He had it on his calendar. Haven't verified with him. I did send him the agenda. He's coming in at 10 to do Moodle lessons because last time we talked about you guys would like to learn some more Moodle stuff. And he did lessons last year for the group, and he did such a great job. And so I invited him back to speak to you guys about that because lessons are a great way to present your instruction. And so that's kind of our topic for today. And so we're going to talk about the standards this morning. Then Mark will come in and do the lessons. And then I'm going to show you how to do Moodle books, which is another way you can present information rather than just a PowerPoint or something like that. And then Suzanne's going to come in and talk about Ally, which is finally enabled and working. Hallelujah! And I've enabled it in all of your classes. And I haven't enabled it for everybody yet, but it is in the core courses and it's in my courses. So we're going to start there because I don't want to give it to everyone until they have some training. So we'll have a little bit of training today so you can see how to use that in case that's something you want to work on over the summer. Okay? Before we get started with instructional materials, because I want to wait for Kate before we start talking about the standards, which is really the meat of the whole thing. If you'll log into our Moodle site, I have a Cord Midway Reflections journal that I'd like you to do, and I'll show you what it says. Now that we're halfway through, I would like you to use this journal to share your reflections, and here's just some questions to consider. You can write whatever you want. I just want to hear from you because this is my way of collecting data to see how you're doing, what you're feeling, how this is working for you, and rather than just sharing it out loud with the group, because sometimes people won't say what they want to say or they aren't as talkative. This is a way that I can collect some of your input about how it's going. So if you will just go ahead and start on that, and we'll do that for maybe like 15 minutes or 12 minutes, I guess, till 9:30ish. And this is good for me because in the last group I did this at the end, and I had some, really great things that were said, and it's good data for me to have about the program, and some other things that maybe we tweaked this year based on what they said. So it's a great opportunity for us to find out how it's going for you. Y'all are writing a lot. Good job. I'm glad. Did you get feedback? so you can catch up on this journal activity later because we're about to end it, but I would like it if you went in and just gave us some feedback. Did she show you? Okay. The main thing I really want to make sure is that these dates are okay. We've kind of discussed and collaborated about the fall dates for cord, and we want to make sure that they work for everybody before we set them in stone. So we did a couple tweaks based on your guys' schedules with, the start of the school year and Christmas and everything. All right, about another minute to wrap up on that. Yes. Yes. And I'll try to get a date in there when you guys can present to ILT, because that was hugely appreciated by them and the other core groups. So that date won't be on the 13th, but I'll invite Kathleen to our meeting just because she's super supportive of this and she's my boss, and it's good to show her what I'm doing and what we're doing over here, so. But we'll find a showcase date that works. I'll get back to you on that. That I have to work with them on. The ILT, probably during an ILT meeting is what'll happen, so. Maybe even ELT. So. We'll move it on up. Present to the board. Everyone's tired. Look, I found this just now. Well, I saw it before, but does this look familiar? This is what you guys look like today. I'm sorry to tell you, but you all look tired. You look like this when we first came. Maybe I should have had
take a group photo midway.
Maybe I should have had you do this survey when you came back after summer, because you may have come out totally different, right? But anyways.
I think the late spring break kind of made a difference.
Oh yeah, right?
Yeah, it was too late.
Yeah, that was interesting the way this year worked out. Spring break and then the end. Very interesting. Okay, well I'll take a peek at that later. Does anyone want to share out loud? I want to say this, and then we'll jump into these standards quickly. Hopefully before Mark comes. I'm really trusting that he's coming because I did verify, but we'll see. I didn't verify again. I verified once a while ago. We presented Cord, Teresa Hicks and I, at the two of the regional meetings for NC3ADL, North Carolina Association of Distance Learning, and I've signed some of you up to be part of that. I offered it to all of you, and some of you replied that you wanted to be part of that, and it went so well. People across the state want to do this now, some people, and they've reached out to us and they want to, they're asking us questions. One person wants to come out here and visit and bring his team and stuff like that. So, they were really excited, and even really cool. Catherine Davis is the director for the state for distance learning. Okay, so she's over distance learning for the system office. And she was at one of the meetings, and she sent me an email saying what a great job Craven's doing with Quality Matters and how impressed they were with what we're doing here. So that was exciting, really exciting news. And then we had one of the conferences here on whatever date, and we had it in the community room. 70 people came from the eastern region, and some of the core people from the last group presented with us. So Terry Van Sickle, Teresa Hicks, Cindy Seymour, and I will be giving you guys these opportunities as well going forward. It's kind of cool because then you get to come out and share, what we've done and what you've done related to Quality Matters and Cord. So it's kind of an exciting time, but it went really, really well, and people loved it. And I shared pictures of you guys, the ones we took. You're on all the slides and all the work we do. So it was really fun and exciting to see how that went. So more to come. We're just getting started. Okay, so let's jump into these standards. And today I'm not going to work you as hard as I did last time. I'll do all the hard work. I'm just going to kind of go through this, okay? We're going to make this kind of quick. Because you guys can read these and figure them out. We're not going to do a lot of activities today. Today's going to be more of a day where we'll just go through the book, talk a little bit, and then Mark will show us lessons, and I'll show you how to do books, and then Suzanne will come and we'll kind of read it, okay? So we don't have anything too strenuous planned for you today. All right, so today we're talking about instructional materials, which is General Standard 4. The instructional materials enable learners to achieve the stated learning objectives or competencies. So the overview statement, the focus of this standard is on supporting the course objectives and competencies rather than on qualitative judgments about the instructional materials. Okay, so what we're looking for is not really necessarily the quality of your instructional materials, but that they are focused on the objectives, right? They're supporting those objectives. Quality's good too though, but that's really what we'll be looking at. And 4.1 is obviously a 3-point standard. It's an alignment standard. The instructional materials contribute to the achievement of the stated learning objectives or competencies. Before we go any further, what do you consider an instructional material? What kind of instructional materials do you use in your course? Yep, textbook. Yep. PowerPoint. Lecture notes. Videos.
Discussion forums, because like I have them explain what this means to you and then reply to how does that align with others. So
And so that discussion forums are one of those cool tools that kind of carry over to both instructional materials and activities in a way, right? They can be both. So yes, labs. I use Pearson Rebel for my instructional materials for the majority of it. So basically the students in my class, we have an account with Pearson Rebel. It has an e-textbook with questions embedded in it that relate to the textbook. And it has videos, it has activities that they can do. And so the college has purchased that as my textbook. So that's my instructional materials, a lot of it too. So I don't have to create my own. It's something that we use for that. So that's an instructional material, right? Okay. Alignment. Let me read it. The instructional material, did I already read it? I already read it. The instructional materials contribute to the achievement of the stated learning objectives or competencies. Alignment. The instructional materials used in the course align with the course and module unit level learning objectives or competencies by contributing to the achievement of those objectives or competencies and by integrating effectively with the tools, assessments, and learning activities selected for the course. Instructional materials may include but are not limited to textbooks, open education resources. Ooh, that's cool. Let me stop there. At the NC3ADL meetings, there was a presentation at all of them for open education resources. And you all, we really need to share this with everybody because they are offering $1,000 to instructors to adopt one of these open education resources, and it goes in your pocket. It's your money to kind of vet it, and test it and pilot it in your course. I have information about that if you're interested.
What is that?
Open education resources is through NC Live, I think it is. It's through the library. The librarian from ECU came and presented it, and it's like they've raised funds. What they're trying to do is, what the goal of it is, there's a whole presentation on it. I went to it 3 times. I should be able to explain this better, but basically they're trying to save students money. They're trying to help the students by not having them have to purchase these expensive textbooks that go out of date, right? And that's an issue for our students. That's a lot of money. Textbooks are expensive. Well, there's open education resources that are free that we can use, and there's certain ones they've developed and pulled together for the main courses too, for certain courses, and others. And they have a list of courses, but if your course isn't one of them, you can still apply for this. It's a grant. And so basically you're agreeing to use their resource instead of your textbook. And it just gives, it's It's instructional materials, it's content for your course, and they've designed it around the community college courses, okay, so, some of them. So anyways, you can get $1,000. I highly recommend thinking about it, and I can give you more information. So it says that here, yes.
But wouldn't everybody in the who's teaching that course have to to do that?
Yes.
I guess that would be a dean's decision, it would seem like
Yeah.
that.
No,
In
No.
chemistry they do.
we stick to the same content for biology, but I might pilot another platform this next semester, and I could be okay for that.
See, in chemistry, yeah, we have to have the same material.
And I think there
It's
might be
gonna be
one for your
9 months
classes,
just
if
to get these
bio,
books
which
that
one are
pay
you
for
looking
board.
at?
112.
Okay, there's a I have all the information, I don't have it all up here, but I have it all that we could look at if you're really interested in that. So, I don't know, that wouldn't be a question for me, that's kind of up to your dean or your department chair, I would guess, if they want you all to have the same thing, I don't know.
Well, if you could include it as extra information without replacing the textbook that everybody's using, maybe that would work.
I mean, I don't know if they'll give you the money for that though,
Yeah.
for the 1,000, I think they want you to dive in. So, but it was really professional, and they look really great, and they did there's a lot of it's gonna be big. There's a lot of research behind it, there's a lot of data they're collecting. Instructors that are using it have said that it's as good as the textbook, and so have the students. Like, they're doing research, it's not just some wonky thing, it's gonna be big. And they're collecting data about it, so,
It's definitely improved from 5 years ago when it was first introduced, and they wanted people to take it on board. There's much more supporting materials for the OERs as opposed to people randomly putting, which was part of the Gates Foundation, and like, that's kind of how it got started. And now it's become more of a thing, and they want to try to,
yeah, they're really working on this project, it's big.
yes.
And that's why they're putting money into it, and, I see the purpose of it. I also see some concerns about it, like, I could do it, I could apply for my class, although mine isn't one on the list, they said you can still apply for it, and if they have materials, but it's of concern because it would probably end up being more work, right? Kirsten's got it all packaged up, perfect, I don't have to worry about it, but the students have to pay for that, right? Well, this would be, it's packaged, but it may not be as streamlined as the publishers, quite as streamlined as far as everything pulling together. You may have to pull, and who knows. So, anyways, it's something to think about. But let's go back to this. That's one, OER. Let me find out where I was reading here. Publisher or instructor created materials, open education resources, slide presentations, and interactive content such as simulations. Who uses simulations? Some of you science people and nursing, yep. Expert lectures, videos, images, diagrams, and websites. So all of that can be instructional materials. The materials align with the learning objectives or competencies in order to provide the information and resources learners need to achieve the stated learning objectives or competencies. Reviewers consider both the course and module unit level learning objectives or competencies in your review. Look for a clear and direct way in which the instructional materials are aligned with the learning objectives or competencies. So decisions are made. Sometimes they're difficult for us because we aren't subject matter experts. We aren't in your discipline. So that could be hard. Like, if I'm looking at a nursing resource, I'm like, I don't really know what this means exactly. So it's tough. So sometimes we may consult with a subject matter expert to make sure that it is. But you're the subject matter expert, so I'm kind of trusting in you guys to know your content. And, so that's where I'm leaning in this way. Reviewers are encouraged to consult a digital version. If you have any digital versions, anything like that, we need access. Okay, so like last year, we had to get into MyLabs Plus for Beth because she was using that in her math class. You can ask them, you can let them know what we're doing, and they'll give us access because we have to look. If that's your instructional material, we have to look at that. And that's why this is a lot of work, this reviewing part, okay? Because we have to kind of review what you're using and make sure it is aligning, and we have to make adjustments if it's not, okay? So we look at the digital version. If the instructional materials are from publishers, review team members must provide with access of all digital publisher materials. In some advanced courses, no textbooks are assigned. For example, in my PhD, it was a lot of PDFs that came from databases, right? In my field, a lot of research studies and published articles that we had to read. So there was a lot of my courses didn't have a textbook by the time I got to the PhD. There were some that did, but some of them were just reading journal articles, peer-reviewed journal articles and stuff like that. We don't have that much here though. We have to consider bibliographies, webliographies, open education resources, or if you develop your own stuff, okay? So we're focusing on alignment. So that is 4.1. Any questions? Okay, good. 4.2. This one's a little challenging. This is a 3-point standard. It's challenging because a lot of us don't do this. Usually this isn't done. We don't see this done a lot. So you have to do this. You have to make sure you do this now. And I'll show you a couple examples. The relationship between the use of instructional materials in the course and completing the learning activities is clearly explained. And you're thinking, why do I have to explain to them why they're doing this activity? Right? That's what I might think, but we do. So I'll show you how that's done in a couple ways, but learners are provided with an explanation of how the instructional materials and learning activities are used in the course, and how each will help them achieve the stated learning objectives or help them prepare to demonstrate course competencies. If optional instructional materials are provided and their use is recommended in the course, the materials are labeled as optional. Make sure you do that. We had several people that had to do that last year. Create some optional things and label it as that. Put a label up there that says optional, because some things, if you're not requiring it, but you want them to have that resource, you need to make them know, this one you have to do, this is optional, okay? Reviewers confirm that instructional materials are provided in such a way to be useful to the learner in completing learning activities. An example would be a course that requires learners to use the following materials: a textbook divided into chapters, video segments ordered by topics, a website or simulation activities organized around specific skills, and an internal or external website that has an opening menu consisting of practice quizzes, images, and audio examples. In such a course, consider whether the order in which the learner should use these materials is clearly indicated, as well as how each is related to the learning activities and how the materials are related to one another. We normally don't. How many of you are already doing that? You are? Okay, some of you might be. Good, then that's good, but most of us don't do this by nature, right? Or maybe you do it a little, or maybe you do it to a point.
I don't indicate, I say practice problems. Do I have to be specific and say required or optional, or can I?
You might want to put them under a label or in a
Okay.
category that says optional. So here's some examples showing the relationship between the instructional materials and the learning activities. Number 1, a schedule of assigned readings is accompanied by an explanation of how the readings will be used in online discussion forum postings. 2, links to external websites include a description of the site and an explanation of how the information at the site is to be used in the learning activities. See, that's important. One person last year had tons of links. I mean tons. But they were just like you opened it up and it was like link, 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 and no one really knew what they were supposed to do when they got to those links or what they were posted for. So we don't want to do that, right? We want to make sure they know, here's your link and here's what I expect you to learn when you go to this link, or what I expect you to do with it. So that's kind of the idea of that. The purpose of instructional materials such as interactive games, simulations, interactive media, and exercises is clearly explained, as well as how the materials are to be used in specific learning activities. 4, an explanation is provided of how required or optional publisher materials, including presentation slides, practice quizzes, videos, and other content are to be used in the learning activities. So, and in a blended course, we have 2 of you that are doing some hybrid. Instructions make clear which materials are to be used in the face-to-face classroom and which are specific to the online portion. Okay, so that's for you guys doing hybrid. You're going to want to let them know which are which. Any questions on that? I'm going to show you a couple of ways that maybe some of this is done. Any questions?
I'm not sure if this fits here or maybe a private conversation, but I just looked at the open educational resources, and it looks like you have to have Google. You have to log in with your Google stuff. So and I know YouTube is Google, so what are we doing with our students who are no longer going to have Google accounts? And how are they?
Oh, I don't think so, because this is for everybody, and a lot of institutions don't use Google. I don't know, I'm sorry I even brought it up in a way, because I'm not presenting about that right now. I don't have all the information in front of me, but I guarantee you that it's not something that's gonna exclude anybody if they don't have something through their institution. Like if they needed, you know what I mean? Google accounts are free. If they needed to, I don't know. The answer is I don't know, but I guarantee you they wouldn't say, you can't use this if you don't have this Google at your institution. That's not the
We'll
case.
talk later.
Because they didn't talk about that.
Okay.
So I'm sure there's a way in for those students if needed, okay? But a lot of institutions don't have Google for their students, so
Right.
they wouldn't just say, well, this is for everybody except, they wouldn't do that. They're trying to make this as open to everyone as they can, so I'm pretty sure they would have a way around that. Okay, let me see what I'm looking for here. I'm gonna go to did this ahead of time just to find something that maybe we could take a peek at. Now, hopefully I can remember where in this course I was going to show you that. Module 1. Okay, this is Eddie's course from last year, his chord course. And somewhere down here in Module 1, yeah, right here. So here's his Module 1, and I think this kind of is a way that he met this standard. He said required assignments, read 1.1 and watch 1.1 videos. And then he tells them why. Section 1.1 will introduce you to the world of statistics. During this introductory section, you will be exposed to a plethora of vocabulary words, blah, 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 blah. This link will grant you access to MyLabs Plus, where you log in and complete the required reading. So he's kind of telling them, why do I want you to do this and why are you going here? What are you going to learn when you get there? I do this in my announcements every week. So every week I send an announcement on Sunday night, and I don't have a ton of instructional materials, really, but I tell them what I think they're going to learn this week, what we're going to focus on. I orient them to the learning. So it's that kind of thing that you want to do. You don't want to just put some links in there and they're like, well, what am I doing and why am I doing this? They can see the objectives, but we know they don't often read those. We want them to. So this is his way of doing it, and we like that, so we thought we'd show that to you today. So, he tells them section 1, 2, the reading and the videos will introduce them to the differences between an observation and an experiment. He asks the question, do you think there's a difference? Kind of get them thinking about that. Okay, so that's not a super hard way to do that, right? Wanted to show you that as an idea of how to meet that standard, because 4.2 is just sometimes a little difficult to meet. There's another course through Quality, when I did one of the Quality Matters courses, this was the course they had us review. So I'm going to look at this to show you what I saw here that I thought could be helpful to you as you're thinking of ways to meet that standard. And this is not in Moodle, but that doesn't matter, really. going well for a moment. There it is. Oh, okay, came back. Okay. Let's see. Get back to that. My courses. This is not the page I really wanted to land on, and I don't totally understand this platform. Landed me on a page different than what I practiced. Let's see. There. So here's the course they had us. If you are going to be a Quality Matters reviewer, you may end up in this course reviewing it because they have you practice in this course. And this, I can't remember if this was the before or after. What they do is they have you practice making recommendations in a course, you and the whole class, and then they apply all the suggestions and they come out with a fixed version of the course, okay? That's how one of the ways they do it in the class. I don't know if this was the before or after, I don't really know, but I just had this website from before and I wanted to show you guys. So let me see my notes where I was gonna go on this, because there was something in here that I thought would meet that standard too in a way. So there's the content. And I went down. This is a different platform, so don't worry about it. It's not Moodle. Hi, welcome. I'm glad you're here. So happy. But that's not the point. The point is the content, right? So for chapter 1, for each chapter, this person has a learning guide, their PowerPoint, their PDF, their quiz, and so on. And I think it was in the learning guide where I saw that. Yeah, so this is how this instructor was kind of trying to meet Quality Matters. So there's the objectives, and here's the tools to help you learn. I like this a lot. Tools to help you learn: textbook reading, chapter 1, slider notes, supplemental resources, discussion assignments, how to know if you learned this material, how to show me what you learned. So I thought that was kind of a nice little layout. It doesn't really connect, though, what we're saying, does it? It's not showing why are they doing this other than the objectives. So let's see what this is. Oh, I guess it just jumps to that. Maybe. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know if this was the best example after all. But I just like the way he's laid it out, he or she. So anyways, okay. We can look at that another day, more of that, because it's kind of fun to dig in that course. And someone had an aha moment last year when I showed this course about how to start designing her course. She's like, oh, because she was using, it was Beth Andrews, and what she did is she didn't do a lot in Moodle. She did a lot in her MyLabs Plus. And so she actually had to design, even though it's a third-party tool, you can meet the standards in there. You can manipulate a lot of those things in there to meet the standards, and that's what she did. And she did a great job with that, by the way. So a lot of her stuff wasn't in Moodle because it was in Math Plus. So, well, we're about ready for you.
Okay.
Real quick, let's go over these last 3 real quick, and then we'll let Mark's here to teach us about lessons. 4.3, the course models the academic integrity expected by learners by providing both source references and permissions for use of instructional materials. So you have got to reference, just like you teach your students, right? Where's my English instructors, right? Citations, references, you must have them. And that's really important. So we teach our students that, and we also have to do that in our course. So if you're using something, make sure you cite it and refer to it. And that includes images that appear in a module if they're not yours, videos that are linked from a repository tool, or journal articles that are linked from a library portal to download. So you can the format of references in instructional materials follows the style prescribed in a recognized guide. So when I was in community college, it was MLA. When I got up to all my other degrees, it was APA. Whatever you use here, you may want to model that for your students as you're referencing the materials you're citing. Or Chicago. At minimum, a reference includes the author or owner, name, date of publication, resource title, if supplied, and URL or source such as a publisher. Okay? So that's pretty self-explanatory. self-explanatory. 4.4, the instructional materials represent up-to-date theory and practice. You shouldn't have like old stuff unless it's seminal research type stuff, right? That contributes to what you're teaching. Make sure you're using current things in your course. So you would want everything to be totally up to date. And that's just kind of the summary of that. Okay? And then the last one is a variety of instructional materials are used in the course. And we've talked about this before. One of the court instructors, the first go-round, had nothing at first, but every single week was the same. It was an outline, a PowerPoint, and a quiz. An outline, a PowerPoint, and a quiz. An outline, a PowerPoint, and a quiz. And the course could run itself. That instructor literally could not have even logged in, and they would just have gone through, and that's not okay, right? So that we have to fix that. That's not how we want our courses to be. So use a variety. Don't just use PowerPoint every single time. Don't just, try to mix it up for the students. And, and we know universal design kind of speaks to that too. So try to do different things to make it interesting and to meet the different learning preferences and that type of thing. So that's that. Those are all the 2-point standards. So there's 2 3-point standards here that are totally required, that are very important, 4.1 and 4.2, and then the rest are 2-point standards. Are there any questions? Okay, before we have 30 seconds before Mark starts. I'm on time. I wanted to tell you guys last year too, if you're ever, I haven't reviewed much yet. I plan on doing a lot this summer, getting in and doing a lot. And I know some of you, how many of you are planning to work on your course this summer? Okay, most of you. Communicate. I think the best thing we can do is communicate. That's one of the process pieces that's new in this time, is that you guys are getting in there, and then we're getting in there, and then I'm getting in there. And what might happen is, what I'm worried about might happen is let's say I get in there and I do some review. You may have no idea that I've done that because you may not be checking quality matters. Or you may go in and fix some stuff and I may not really know, oh, you really need to go back and look at that again and say that's met now. This instructor has finished. So I'm thinking, let's email a lot, just communicate with your reviewers. If you fix something and you revise something based on the recommendations, send us an email and say, hey, I did some revisions, you might want to review my course again. And if we finish reviewing in the middle of the summer or whatever, I'll send you an email. You may not look at it, you don't have to look at it in summer, but just so you know, hey, I'm done with your review for this standard, so you can go check it out if you want to. Will that help? Any better ideas?
Suzanne actually sent me an email that she had reviewed some stuff and said, hey, if you'll just do this, I'm going to go ahead and give this. So I love getting that from her.
Good.
And then once I had it done, I responded right back to her, and she was able to go right in there and take a look at it and improve it. And I really love that because I really don't have time to get in there every day and check to see if somebody's been in there looking at it.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to keep going to Quality Matters and seeing if someone did something. So let's email. We'll put our reviews in there, but let's email back and forth. The other thing, there was a couple times last year that somebody did not agree with the review that they received. They got in and they're like, I don't agree with this. I want to defend myself. That's what you can do that. I'm here. Contact me. Contact your reviewer. We're here. You can come in and share with us how you think you did meet it. And we may agree with you. We may just need to kind of talk through it or have a chat. So we're always here for you. I'm always here for you. You guys are my kids this year. So, and forevermore. So you can come anytime, talk to me, set up an appointment, or, if you have anything about the review that you have questions about, just come ask, come talk to us. Okay? All right. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Mark King, who's going to share lessons with us today. And you need me to do anything here? I logged in as the administrator.
I'll just log
That's
in.
cool. Okay.
I'll log back in. It's me.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark.
Oh, you're welcome.
And you guys, last year, what we did is, I think if I remember right, if you want to create these resources, like if you want to practice, I don't know if you're going to give them an opportunity to do this or just show them. When I do books later, we had everyone try to create a book. You can do that in somewhere, in your template or in your course, and then just delete it. You know what I mean? just find a course to practice in, and you can delete it if you want to practice along.
There we go. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday, right? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna start from, I was thinking about how to do this, and I thought, why not just show you how to do it from scratch, like how I learned. Some of the things I do is gonna help if you know a little bit of HTML sometimes, but a lot of times you might just be able to copy and paste, like how many of you have embedded YouTube videos in your course shells, where you copy and paste the embed code, and yeah, you can do stuff like that with the lessons. I like the lessons because I can sort of integrate not only what I'm teaching, but also a quiz to go along with it. So they not only will they get a grade for completing the lesson and learning the concept, but there's quiz questions that you can add in for points. So you don't have to have a lesson separated from a quiz. It's all in one place. So how many do you currently keep them separate, like quizzes? And yeah, this way it depends on what you want to teach. The lesson may not work for what you're teaching, but for some things it may work. So so all you do is go into Moodle, get into your course shell, turn your editing on, and I'm just going to go into section 1, and we have add an activity or resource. And the lesson, there it is, a little purple box right here. And it does tell you a little bit about what you can do, you know, just delivering content and practice activities. It is pretty flexible. So I'm just going to go ahead and add it. And of course what you need to do is name the lesson, and I'm just going to keep it basic for today. I mean, you can make these lessons as long as you want or as short as you want, but it doesn't have to be any particular length, okay? Because maybe part of the concept can be used, a lesson can be used, and maybe part of the concept you have to do however you're already doing it. So I'm in library land, so I'm just going to talk about information literacy. And that's the name of the lesson. You can name it whatever you want. And you can also put a description. This could be something that, you know, what are they going to learn about it? It could be instructions, you know. Little keyboards always get me.
Oh, I know, that keyboard is killing me.
I've got one over in the library.
I think I'm gonna ask to order a regular size keyboard. It's
So
so hard to type.
what you want to do is, if you want the description on the course shell, you just check the box for display description on course page. The other things you have here are just really basic settings for the entire lesson. You know, you got the appearance. You know, if you want a progress bar, this will show the students how far along they are in the lesson. So if they get halfway through, it'll say, oh, you're 50% through this lesson. It's a little bar at the bottom of each lesson page that tells them how far along they've gotten, how much further they have left to go. I usually do include the progress bar. I like to show students, you know, because students, it depends if it's a long lesson, students might want to be like, how much longer do I have left? You know, how much further do I have to go? Display menu is just like a menu of each page in the lesson. I don't usually use that one. You can do things like, since there's going to be questions involved in the lesson, you can display an ongoing score. So it'll let them know how well they're doing or how badly they might be doing as they're going along. You know, minimum grade to display menu, I always just leave it at 0%. Maximum number of answers, that's I'll get to the questions as we add stuff in, but it's one thing I don't like about lessons is the question types. It's sort of limited. How many of you create quizzes? Okay, so you know how many choices you have as far as question types, right? It's really nice and flexible. But the lesson, it's a little limited, and I'll show you that when I add in a question. But maximum number of answers, so because most of your options are going to be multiple choice, you know, so how many answers do you want per question? Link to next activity would be things like, is it the next lesson, is it the next PowerPoint, things like that. So you can actually, once they get to the end of the lesson, you can create the lesson to jump to whatever the next activity is. You don't have to do that. It can go just back to the course show. Just depends on how you want the class to flow. The availability, I think we all know what that means. It's in about every little activity you can create in Moodle, you know, when it's available, you know, for the semester, or if you want it just to be available for 2 weeks, things like that. The flow control, you can allow student review or option the question, answer the question again, or if you want them to have more than one attempt at a question. So how many of you allow your students to have multiple attempts, like 3 or 2? Yeah, so you can allow that within the lesson.
I can, also too, just to throw something in there, I sometimes think of lessons as one of the practice activities. Like, it doesn't have to be a lesson and an assessment it does go in the grade book, but it could be one of the things in Quality Matters where they're practicing, like they're using this to learn. So you give them more attempts so that it kind of directs them till they finally get the right answer, you know what I mean? And they're learning through the lesson and through the answering of their questions. So it just depends on how you use it, as an assessment, as an activity, right? So.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a quiz. That's just how I do it. Because I like to have everything in one place, because I hear students all the time, you know, they get lost in Moodle sometimes. They don't know where to find stuff. So, you know, they did the lesson or looked at the PowerPoint, then they're like, where's the quiz? You know, how, you know, the assessment part of it. So it
that
just
will
depends
never
on-
happen with these guys now, right? These courses.
You know, you can assign it a grade. You know, grade to pass would be something like 60%. You know, you put 60.0 in here. There is the option for the practice lessons. If you want them to practice, they can retake it, things like that. So the rest of these I usually don't mess with. I don't mess with too many settings with lessons because I don't know half of what they do. And when I got it to work, it works.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to save and return to the course. All right, so there's my information literacy lesson created right here. And now I'm going to go in and I always have to figure this one out. I'm not used to the new Moodle yet, so I think I have to click on the title.
And there's that little gear.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
where I always
It
look for
is
the
the
gear on the
new-
previous
mhm.
page. So there's where you can do edit settings and everything. But this is what I want to do. So let me scroll down a little bit so you guys can see. Now, how many of you already have like a question bank in Moodle? Okay, good. You can import questions. Okay. Adding a content page is something like the lesson material. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to embed a YouTube video in my lesson page. You can put text in there. You can put web links to a website or something. Does anybody use something outside of that that's kind of really nice and fancy besides YouTube videos or just plain text or anything? Like, okay, I was just wondering. I was just curious. You know, like
Live article, maybe
Mhm.
maybe an academic article for them to read and analyze?
Yeah, you can create a web link to it.
Okay.
You know, something like that. Especially like if it's coming from NC Live or something, you get the hyperlink to it. And or if you download the article, you can actually upload the article as a file
Okay.
and have them look at it. So I don't usually use import questions or adding a cluster. I don't. For one thing, I don't know really. I'm not 100% sure what a cluster is, so I'm not the expert. So I do like to add content pages, and the way I usually do my lessons is I'll add a content page and then a question page about the content they just read about or watched. that way it kind of flows together and they're not answering all these questions at the end because they usually can't go back previous pages in the lesson. So let's see. So if I want to just start off the lesson with defining the concept of information literacy, I can do that. And I'm going to look on YouTube for a video that explains it. So let's see. And I try to keep the videos short. I don't like to have I don't want to have like a 20-minute video. You can if you want, but I like, since I know I'm going to have other pages in the lesson, I don't want to make it too long, because information literacy doesn't take too long to explain, at least define it. So I got my video, I picked one out, but right here I just want to talk about, you've got all these little tools right here. How many of you use these on a regular basis in Moodle? Do you be taking advantage of those? Okay, good. You know, your font, how you want to style your font, creating web links, things like that. You can insert media, videos, images. If you wanted to insert an article, you would use manage files. And then you drag and drop, you know, your PDF file in here and it uploads it, and then you would select it and name it, maybe give it a little description of what the article's about, what they're supposed to get out of the article, anything like that. The one I really like is HTML. Has anybody ever used that? Did they toggle the HTML? Yeah. I do stuff on the library's webpage a lot, so I had to do all that content, so it was a crash course for me in HTML coding and some Java coding and everything. So if I want to just put the video, excuse me. Let's see. And I want to share this video. I like it because I don't have to create a link that opens in a new window. Everything's right there in one place. So I'm going to share, embed. Let's toggle my HTML. So I've got it embedded in the content page.
And the nice thing about embedding instead of linking is when the students go to it, they aren't out on YouTube with all those other ads on the side, like they are with a link. They're actually just in that video. I embed a lot myself too.
So I got a little description of it. Now the jump section under content, you can actually tell the lesson to jump to different pages in the lesson. So it could be the next page, the previous page, maybe it's the last page of the lesson. So it'd be the end of the lesson. I usually just do next page, and I messed up on that. I forgot. Description is not video about information. Description is actually something like this. Next page. And then you tell it where to go. So I had to backtrack there. It's been a little bit since I've done a lesson, but description, you can put, you know, what the next concept is they're going to learn. Instead of next page, you can put, you know, learn about evaluating information, and then the next page of the lesson is about evaluating information. So, and we'll see what happens when I show you the preview of it. So, save page. So what I have here is where it just shows my page. I'll show them like the page type, where it jumps to after you're done with it. You can edit it, but what I'm going to do here is add a new page, and in this case, I'm going to add a question page. So, like I said, it's kind of limited with the types of questions you can ask. So, I like, they added matching in. I told you they wanted. They added matching in. I always wanted to be able to add a matching question into a lesson. So now I can do it. So that's my summer project, is to go back and revamp the ACA orientation with lessons. So But you can add an essay question, multiple choice, numerical, short answer, true and false. So you can add all those question types. So I'm going to do a multi-choice. Page title, I usually just, you know, it's not the question itself. It's just sort of like when you name a question in a question bank. Do you guys do that too? Where you have to give the question the name itself. It's not the actual question, but the question name. That's what this is here. The page
Add a new page. So
Mhm.
you had one page, how did you do the next one?
Oh, I'm sorry. I can go back. Let me scroll down.
It was over,
Is it under?
Let me cancel.
I think it was over here somewhere.
Alright, so after you save your content page,
Had a question page?
it goes
Yeah.
back to this list of your pages. And over here on the right hand side where it says add new page, then I add a question page.
Thank you. Now you can't pull from your pool here?
If you do it at the beginning when you import questions,
Oh.
yeah, it's just lessons. They're getting better.
Okay.
You know, it's just with each update they're getting a little better, but sometimes we're a little limited. But if you have the question bank already, why not just print out? It'd be easy to type it up, you know, instead of having to come up with questions all over again. But yeah, I agree. You know, it'd be easier if you just import the question itself.
Okay.
Required. And I learned this kind of stuff just by playing around with it. You know, taking what knowledge I already had of like, because the program we use for our website uses a lot of the same kind of functions. You know, the box, the HTML editor, anything like that. So I played around with it. You know, because usually with web page stuff and web code and HTML, if you can do it in one type of program, you can use the same code for another type of program that uses HTML editing. So if you did something that worked in one way, you can do it in Moodle probably. Just depends. So page contents. I meant to phrase that differently. Which of the following? Okay, so I got my question. You can certainly highlight it. You can, you know, make the text bigger and stuff like that. You know, I think for ADA stuff, you can make it bolder or larger text, you know, so everyone can read it. Then I'm going to scroll down. And just like when you create a quiz, you put in your answers with the response. So if it's incorrect or correct. So if you know how to do quizzes, you can do same thing here pretty well. It's got HTML editing, so if you wanted to put in something additional to the answer, you could do that. You know, if you wanted to create little links that explain the answers, you could do that. Just depends on how you want to set it up. Let's see. Let's see. I'm going to say partially correct because my answer I think is going to be all the above. Now you can, when they answer a question, you can actually jump to different pages. So since this is only partially correct, I'm going to redirect it to the same page, so they keep answering. Your score, you should be able to do it in decimals. So if I have like 3 answers that are correct out of 4, or if there's an all of the above answer, I could do something like, I think it's 0.33, something like that. So if they don't get all of them correct or answer all the above for whatever reason, they could at least get partial credit.
Do y'all get that? And if it's one right answer, you're gonna put 100% in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you want it, there's more than one right answer and they have to select more than one, you have to divide it, the 100 by that number of responses.
And that's what I usually get when I create quizzes. It's like
Yeah.
0.3333333 because I've got 3
Mhm.
correct answers. It's it's never ending. Okay, so let's see. So you just do it like this. And if I want my answer 4 to be all of the above, I can do that. And that will be, that's actually the most correct answer. And then, if they answer it correctly, which all the above, it'll go to the next page. I can make it redirect to the next page of the lesson, so they can continue on with it. But, you know, if you don't want them to redirect, but if you're allowing retakes of the lesson, you could just, you know, make this one 100% or 1. So I'm gonna save page.
Yeah, and I usually, what you're doing, I usually do it not .33, I do 33.
Oh, is it 30?
It'll allow you to do that too. You can
Yeah.
either do 33
Or point.
or 100,
Yeah,
or put the decimals in, and I think it works either way.
okay.
It's the same thing, really.
Well, you have reports here, so if you want to generate some reports and statistics on lessons, grading the essays, things like that, I'm going to go ahead and preview the quiz. So when they click the link to the quiz that's in the course shell, you can see. So there's my question. There's the title I had to come up with for that page in the lesson. But then here it is right here. There's my video that'll play. You can make it full screen and everything. And then remember I had put the navigation description. Next page right here. Sometimes I put little arrows that with the page, so because when they start getting into the middle of the lesson, it can go previous or forward. So I put arrows pointing to which way they want to go. So. And really, all I do is use, I'm not sure, I call them like little alligator mouths on the bottom of the keyboard, the greater and less than symbol, yeah. So if I want to go to the next page after they watch it, then I have my question. So, and usually that's how and I shuffled with, that's the other thing in the lesson that I forgot about. It automatically shuffles the questions. Yeah, you know how in the quiz you can actually set it to shuffle or not shuffle. With the lesson, it's going to automatically shuffle. So you can see it's very confusing, and it's pretty obvious what the answer is because I have all the above as the second answer because of the way it's shuffled. So maybe in the next update they'll fix that. But you can see where how the question will look. I could actually, let me show you what I can do. Let me go back to the first. Let me go back to the first one. If I want, oh, it's not gonna let me. If I wanted to actually just create a question page with the video embedded and then have the question below the video, I can do that. It's just when you add the question page, you, well, I can show you how to do that. Let me go back to, no, let me go back and edit. Alright, so I'm going to add a new page. I'm going to make it a question page. We'll stick with multi-choice. Add a question page. I'm just going to do the same question. And then what I'm going to do is, this is where the HTML comes in handy, knowing how code works. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to, that's not what I want. It didn't go from, there we go. Alright, so I'm going to add a line break in there. I'm going to go back and get the code again. And then I'm going to switch to my HTML. And you can see all the paragraph breaks, the page breaks, and everything. Just all I'm going to do right at the end of that code is do Control V. Sometimes I have to edit a little bit. There you go. And you know, you can make this bigger if you want. That's right, I always have to do it HTML wise. But I could make it a heading, so there, I made it a little bigger. Now, that would be it, the lesson, the question content, okay? And then all I would do below that is put in my answers. I'm not gonna worry about putting corrector in it, anything there. Just because I want to show you what it looks like. I'm just gonna use 2 questions just to show you what it looks like. All right. So, and I can preview individual questions. See the little magnifying glass right here? I can actually just preview that one page instead of having to go through the entire lesson and previewing everything. You can certainly make duplicate pages, deleting things. You can edit. You can see right here with the arrows that are pointing up and down. If I click and drag those, oh, that's not clicking. It's you have to move here. So I'm going to make it the first question. Now it's the first question. Let's preview it. And you can see, I got my question, I got the video, for the lesson, but then I've got my answers right below that. So you could actually, integrate the content and the question in one page. So that would, I like some people like that. It's even more concise. It's got everything in one page right there in the lesson. So they don't have to do the concept, then a question, a concept, then a question. It's all right there. So it just depends on how you want to set it up. Any questions about the lessons? It's pretty flexible. The HTML knowledge helps in some things.
But I don't really know HTML, but I can do the things that he showed us. Like, you don't really have to know code to be able to use
You don't have
those,
to write
the
code.
embed. Yeah, I don't write, I know a little, I can change size and stuff, but I'm not an expert on that. But these things are still easy for those of us that don't know. You can still use those little, like you said, the greater than, less than symbol to embed code. Just don't forget to click on that, because I've done that before where you go ahead and you get the embed code and then you paste it in Moodle and you forgot to click that and then it shows up as the code, right? You gotta click that code button first, right? Am I making sense? Because I've done that a few times. I'm like, no, that's not good. Delete.
But lessons are pretty easy. If most of you have already done YouTube videos or you've done documents, you've created quizzes. So I think the lesson can kind of incorporate all those kind of things, those kind of skills that you already have with Moodle. It's just another tool that you can use to present your class content in a different way. Because I see a lot of students, they got the PowerPoint they print out, and then they might do the quiz by itself, and but everything's in one spot here. They may print out a PowerPoint to use on a quiz, but and the nice thing is it will actually grade it and give them a grade for it. So I would say experiment with it. Maybe in your fall classes, or maybe even your summer class if you're teaching summer and you got time. Maybe take one of your weeks that you're teaching and just test the lesson out and see how they do. That's the best way to get the data and statistics. Just have your students do it, and maybe even ask them what they thought about doing a lesson versus printing out a PowerPoint or reading through things and then answering a bunch of quiz questions. See how they like the lesson. Student feedback's the best we can get. So.
Well, I feel like it's more interactive, and that's what we're shooting for. So we're trying not to just have PowerPoint quiz, but this allows them to interact with the lesson as you go through it while it's being taught, and I think it's just a nice tool to use. I
like it. Once I discovered how to use it and practiced and got used to it and how it worked, that's one of my go-to activities right
and
there.
We found in the first group, and what I found here is a lot of people don't use lessons, and a lot of people don't know how to use lessons here. They've just not gotten to that yet. So, we want you guys to have all the best tools available. And some people do, but a lot of us don't. A lot of people here don't. use lessons?
And, you know, I mean, we have the CTL, you can call over here and ask, I don't know how many times I've called you guys or emailed you, how do I do this in Moodle?
Yeah.
So you got that, I mean, I'll make myself available, so, you know, if you're doing lessons, you get stuck, feel free to contact me, jabber me, email me, whatever, yeah.
Could you take one of your favorite lessons and import it into our core thing, so we could just look at maybe some of the settings that you've done and how you've handled
I
some
can,
things in
yeah,
there?
sure.
Would that be okay?
Yeah, I'm working on
I
one
mean, I don't
pretty.
care about content, I just wanna see, you know, structure and
Yeah,
mechanics.
once I'm finished with my ACA one, I'll figure out how to share it with people,
Okay.
so.
Do you have a final lesson that you've
I
done?
think I do. I think I still
Short one,
do.
just to show how you.
I mean, when you embed yourself, you were in embed.
Yeah, I had a lesson
You
in
had
there.
like some citation lessons in there.
Yeah, I did. Let me get back to, I may still have one. I'm not promising anything, cause I have like, let's see, OER, it might be under library and research support, but that might have been a quiz that I created. There's a survey I came up with. This isn't a lesson, but this might be it. No, that might be it. No, that's my quiz. Sorry, so I don't have the lesson yet. I've been revamping things. We've got a new ACA coordinator and stuff, and
Is that
this is-
a lesson or not?
but you can see what I did with the quiz at least. It would look the same in a lesson. You know, I've got my question here and I've got the video embedded, and then they answer the question. Yeah.
What if you had like lesson one PowerPoint, right, and it had like maybe 20 slides on it, and let's say like you wanted the student to click through like slide 1 through 3, and then boom, a question.
You would have to create JPEGs and then
That's
the
what I was
page,
thinking, yeah.
next page.
Okay.
And you can actually write text below the PowerPoint if you wanted in the instructions for them, but they would have to be individual JPEGs.
You could do it as a JPEG. That was my initial thought too. Do you want them to do like a slide and then a question, a slide and then a question?
Yeah, I was just thinking of it.
What do you think of that?
I was thinking maybe save it as like a slideshow file, you know, and that way it would open up in a full screen format.
I think that would be neat as practice if they looked at a couple slides, you know, understood the material, and then there was a question. A couple more slides, a question. Kind of like how we do our mandatory training. You know how like there's a video there, then boom, there's some questions, and then we gotta keep on going. I think
Yeah,
that-
save them. You can save them as JPEGs. Do you know how to do that?
Mhm.
Okay. That's one way to do it. But when you do that, I guess if you create a link to the file, the JPEG file, it would pop up in a bigger window. Otherwise, it's going to be about this big, so you don't want to make your text, you don't want to use too much text, it'll be too small. So that's why I'm thinking maybe a slideshow file with just a couple slides and then a question, because the slideshow should open up in full screen, and then all they have to do is hit escape to get out of it. So that's another way you could do it. Just depends, you know. It's
Would
one of those
you-
things you just gotta test out and practice and say,
Would you-
oh, this didn't work, I'm gonna
Yeah.
try something else. It's trial and error sometimes with Moodle, so.
Definitely.
With slideshow, would you be importing JPEGs again into the slideshow?
No, it'd be a slideshow file that wait, maybe I was
So,
understood.
so if you're taking a PowerPoint and you're creating it as a slideshow in
Mhm.
Moodle, when you upload the content, would you again have to create JPEGs to put into the?
No, the slideshow file, it's a file type in PowerPoint where you know how you view the slideshow
No.
and it goes through the PowerPoint slides. What it does is when you save it as a slideshow file, it doesn't, when you click it to open it, it doesn't open into PowerPoint and you have to hit F5 to get to the slideshow. It goes straight into the slideshow. So it should open up in full screen. Does that help answer your question? Maybe.
Maybe.
So you wouldn't be turning anything into a JPEG. It's
No, no.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Not
so
if you
you
save
just
the
save it
slideshow.
in that slideshow.
Yeah, you don't.
Okay.
You wouldn't have to save anything as a
Okay.
JPEG. You can certainly. I mean, whatever works for you and helps the students,
Okay.
learn it better. So, yeah, I have to play around with that
Yeah.
one. Because the way I create videos is I create PowerPoints and I time the slides, and then I save it as a Windows video file, and that's how I create my videos. Yeah, and I'll add music in the background or something with YouTube because they have like unlicensed music that you can use.
Well, you're librarian and multimedia.
Yeah, most of those are, yeah.
So who do we talk to about what you were saying, save as a slideshow? Cause I don't see that as an option for save as.
Well, we got a little time. Let me open up PowerPoint. Well, let's say this one, okay? I won't make any changes, but if you go to File
Mm-hmm,
and you go to Save As,
mm-hmm.
come on. There we go. You gotta open up the little dialog box, so I'm just gonna say this PC. Alright, so you got all these different file types you can use. You see PowerPoint show right here?
Okay.
That's the slideshow file.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now if you wanted to, there's your JPEG right here, and there is, there it is, Windows Media Video. So, because the way I do my PowerPoints, I time everything out, so I don't want to make everything, the video's too long. So, the way I put the text in, it looks like it's typing it out, letter by letter, so it doesn't, that's how I time it. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with PowerPoint. You can save it as a MP4, but I like Windows Media Video because it's just easier with Windows and uploading to YouTube. So, but yeah, there's a bunch of different things you could, file types. I've used JPEG, I've used the Windows Media Video, and I've used Slideshow, and of course PowerPoint. Oh, actually, let me save it on the desktop. I'll show you what it looks like when you open it.
So the slideshow is, when you do that, it's the entire slideshow. So you
Yeah.
can't pull 3 slides out into.
Well, that's what I'm looking at now, because under Tools in the Save dialog box, you have Save Options and General Options. Other Save Options, it's not going to be in there.
I usually save them as different files,
Yeah, you might have to do that with this.
like mini files.
That's for password.
Same with JPEGs, I'd save them as separate, like have a folder and all the folders, slide 1, slide 2.
Yeah,
So
that's how it
they'd be-
does it. It'll automatically generate a folder, and it'll just say slide 1, 2, unless you give the slides names, which you can do in PowerPoint. So this one I'm just going to do as a PowerPoint show. Is that it? No, that wasn't it. Let me find it. Which one was that I saved? Accessible PowerPoint presentations. Yeah, so that's my slideshow file. Automatically opens up into full screen, and then you can just hit escape to get out of it. So that might be a little easier to do than having JPEGs. But yeah, if you want to just have specific slides in the slideshow, you'll probably have to save as the slideshow first, and then delete the slides that you don't want. Yeah.
The other thing is, if you do that, you have to make sure to put the actions in the slideshow. So imagine you had set it to the slideshow mode for your class, and you usually are clicking to move forward. Well, you have to put those actions in the file so that it will do it for you.
Are you talking about transitioning?
Transition, yes.
Yeah,
Transitions,
that's
I
easy to
think.
do in transitions.
Yeah, it's the
Over
it's
here
actions,
on
yeah.
the right hand side, advanced slide, and then
You have to put
after
all the timings.
how many ever seconds. And the cool thing is when I don't have the dialog box open, but what I do is actually it's the animations. Because I have to add the animations in to show the text and everything, but then the animation pane will open up over here. Oh, I touched it. Okay. And then what happens is when you play it, if you add animations in, they all show up over here, and then a little like a stopwatch will appear at the bottom, and that's how I figure out how much time is on each slide, and then I make my transition that maybe a couple seconds after that.
And if you don't do that, then the students can just
Yeah, they'll just click through it.
click through it on their own timeline.
Yeah, so I mean, I would.
And they could still click through it even though.
They should.
Yeah, they can still click through it ahead of time. Yeah, I would just let them click through it at their own pace. Because otherwise they might be watching the same slideshow 5 or 6 times, just trying to get the concept down. You want to we want to challenge them, but we don't want to make it too difficult for them to get the content. So. But yeah, I could probably do a whole class on PowerPoint. That's what I know.
Well,
so.
we can have you come and do that. We would love that.
Do that.
Any other questions?
I'll see you this summer.
You know where to find me. Yeah.
Some appointments with Mark. I have a favor for you. I'm creating a new course for new online and hybrid instructors, and we're creating videos. Would you be willing to create a video on lessons?
Mhm.
Because I'm like doing tutorials so they can watch them and then do assignments.
Shouldn't be a problem though. I'll probably use like screenshots and stuff. And, yeah.
Okay.
I got Camtasia on my computer, but for some reason I just like using PowerPoint. to
Yeah,
create
and those will
videos.
be available to everybody too, the videos we're creating, but we're creating it for the new, yeah, we use Camtasia, and two of the other deans are helping me. I like to have a variety, so it's not just me, the Jen show. That's why I love to have you come, and that would be great to have someone else, you do the video if you don't.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll show you what we're doing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let me know
I
what
will.
kind of stuff you'd like in it and
You can
everything.
kind of see how we're structuring everything.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
More variety for them.
Yeah, give me something.
Tired. It
Well-
shouldn't be a big deal,
Yeah.
and I'm doing mine in.
I think it's.
Yeah, when,
You know, it's just
once you get to know the software, you just wouldn't feel like
Yeah.
somebody's business.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like
And you
that.
do your video lectures.
Well, if nobody has any questions.
I have.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Mark.
much.
You're welcome.
Good job.
And you know where to find me if you have questions.
Yep, they're gonna find you now.
Yeah. See,
They
I guess,
know now that you
see,
know.
but you have to come to the library.
Gotcha.
Guys, I don't see you guys over there. Come over. No problem. See you guys. Have a good weekend.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Pop what I want right in there.
All right. So let me log out as Mark.
Either way. Well, we should take video
I'll log back in as
and
me.
then put it into Tangent.
But they don't have to have it on the same file.
No, you take it, take it into folder, take it into,
Thank you.
then you pop it on YouTube.
And then do they transfer it?
Yes, if you got it, maybe.
I'm not a Southern dialect.
Do you have YouTube? Because they don't make us sit in the reviews, it takes up too much space. So, they prefer us to have it on YouTube, and then put it on YouTube. Couple times, it's not good, so I'll be here so much.
Okay, so now I'm gonna talk about books, and books are another way that you can present information in Moodle, instead of just using a PowerPoint or your same old tired tools. Now you know how to use lessons, if you didn't already know, and a lot of people don't use books or know about books either, so it's just amazing how many tools are in Moodle that we don't utilize and take advantage of. So I'm just gonna show you how to make a Moodle book today. Before I show you how to make the book, I'm going to show you what one looks like. So here's an example of a book in a course. So this book, there's the icon for it. So when you add a book to Moodle, it's going to show a little icon like that. And what it looks like when we open the book, this is a student support information book in Moodle, okay? And so this is the first page of the book. It talks about this is kind of like the instructor block. And then what the students get is they get, depending on how you set it up, is they get an arrow that they can move to the next page in the book. You would definitely want to teach the students this, because I think it's not that intuitive. Like, they may just open it and go, well, that's nice, I'm done with that. You know, they may not realize. And the other thing that's kind of neat about books is it creates a table of contents. So over here you have the links to every single page in this book. So you can, the students, or you can flip through page by page to see the next page, and you have the same tools that you do in every Moodle resource. So you can embed video here, just like the same toolbar. You can add a file, you can do whatever you want here, okay? But the other thing is instead of going through one at a time, you can skip topics. So here's technical skills for online students, and it'll open up that page. So that's just kind of what a book looks like, a basic book, solving technical difficulties. Like say they just want to look at one topic, okay? They can just pop to the topic right there. So that is what a Moodle book looks like. And I am going to walk you through creating one. They're really, really easy to create. I just have to decide what course I want to create it in, something that I don't use much. I'll use my hot template sandbox, which doesn't have much in here yet, and that's good. So I'm going to open section 3, and I'm going to turn my editing on, and I'm going to add an activity or resource, and I'm going to select book. And here it'll tell us what books are used for. It enables teachers to create a multi-page resource in a book-like format with chapters. You can create sub-chapters. They can contain media files as well as text. They're useful for displaying lengthy passages of information, which can be broken down into sections. It can display reading material for individual modules of study as a staff development handbook. You could do your handbook here, or showcase a portfolio of student work. Okay, so we can add the book, and I'll just say word example. And you don't have to have a description because there's no little icon there, but you can. This is a book about books. Okay. All right, so there's that, and you can display that on your course page if you want. Same, you know all this stuff, right? This isn't the really exciting, important stuff that you need to make your book. All the same settings apply to all the other resources and activities. So we'll save and display is what I like to do, because it'll automatically pop me over here to where I can add my new chapter. Okay, so my first chapter is going to be summer. Let's think about summer. And then this is going to be my content. Summer is coming. And notice what I can do, like I would recommend doing this depending on what you're trying to teach your students or what you're trying to do with this book. Use the tools. I mean, I can add a picture, I can add a video, I can add, whatever I want. I have all the tools available to me. I can format my book, all the same things we can do anywhere in Moodle. And that will format it on my page of the book. So make your books interesting, right? Put some cool multimedia in there and everything like that. But for today, we're just going to keep it super simple, just because the point is to show you how to do this, not to get super fancy or anything like that. So this is the content. I can enter tags, so it can be searched. So I would tag it as summer, whatever I might want to tag it as, cord, and I'm going to save changes. Okay, and so there's the first page of my book. Pretty boring, right? That's just how it looks for now. But I could have added lots of cool stuff. But so now over here where the table of contents is, this is where I can add more chapters. So I have my plus sign here, and it gives me the option of creating a new chapter. I could also, if I didn't want this to be another chapter, but I wanted it to be a sub-chapter under my first chapter, I could do sub-chapter, and then, so my first chapter, what was it, summer? So this could be 4th of July. That's part of the summer. And just so we can see what that looks like. Fireworks. And I could tag it and save changes. So now what we see is I have my first chapter, which is summer, and my sub-chapter is 4th of July, and it titled it 1.1.4. I don't know why a 4 though. That's kind of interesting. It should have seemed like it had been 1.1.1.
No, it's 101. Yeah, it's 1.1.
1.1.
Oh, because of the 4th of July. I'm like, that made no sense to me, but now it does. Thank you. I had 4th of July. I'm like, 1.1.4? Okay, so see how that works? So then if I wanted to add another chapter, whoops, I just hid that, so I missed. This one I want it to be a regular chapter, so this one is going to be fall, whatever. We're just kind of playing here. And school comes in the fall. I could add my stuff, my pictures, just format it all that I want, and save my changes. And so now we see, here's my 2 chapters, summer, 4th of July, fall, and then, so forth. That's how easy making a book is. It's so simple. Something different, right? And so it's a Moodle tool, so it is accessible with some restrictions. So basically, just like anything else, what you put in it has to be accessible. So if you put in a video and it's not captioned, the book isn't going to be accessible. But the resource itself, as long as you put the correct things in, is accessible. So, that's kind of nice to know. You can create these books, and they will work with the screen reader and everything like that. So, there's something, though, I feel like I didn't show you. So let me look at this again, because there's some editing we can do, and we didn't look at that. We can decide, this is what we can decide. We skip this. We can decide if our chapters are formatted with numbers or bullets or indented. How do we want our chapters? Do we want them to be numbered or what? Also, the style of navigation, if you select images, that puts those arrows there. That images is that arrow that students can click on to go to the next page or to go to the previous page. Or you can select table of contents only, so they would only be able to navigate in the table of contents, not with that arrow. Or text, so you could put some text there. I kind of like the arrows, but you could put text and say next or previous, if you wanted to, like that. So let's see what happens if I change it. Let's just change it for fun. We'll make it bullets, and we'll make it text. Okay? And then so it put a bullet point there, but it still has a number. And now it says next instead of the arrow, right? Because I said text. I like the arrow better. It's telling us the next chapter is that. And then I can go to previous. I don't know why it didn't take the number away, though. So let's see. Oh, because I left it at numbers. That's why. Bullets. Well, anyways, it's not that important. There, let's try it now. Okay, there. I just didn't save it, I guess. Whatever, just format it how you want it. And you may or may not use these. I don't use a lot of books, but I can see that they could be useful for certain items in the course. Keep it fun and flowing, different. But make sure your students know how to use it, right? Make a little video or give them instructions, because they may get in there and think, what do I do with this, if they aren't used to it. That's it. We are at 11 o'clock. We're running early. Aren't you excited? Which means we'll get out early. Any questions, comments? You all look so tired. I'm sorry.
Just wait till Monday.
It's the end. You've made it. It's hard time of year. I'm really tired. Suzanne's going to talk about Ally. Would we like to take a break? Before? 5 minutes, 10 minutes? 5 or 10? How long do you need?
5.
5 is
All right,
good.
come back at 11:05. You have 7 minutes.
I'll be right back.
All right.
Just gotta,
Okay, how are you?
that filthy trash,
How do you like it?
I love the smell.
What?
that
Smell it
trash.
It doesn't stay on.
Oh,
But it's okay. I love that.
I know, it has a little
Yeah.
feature.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
let
never
it-
stay on.
Each of you are like-
Good, you look great. Yeah, you look really good. It's working. Sure. Congratulations, how exciting, baby. I love babies. Oh, you're going to after that? Okay, well, you'll be here for this one? Okay, so here's the thing, we aren't presenting any content here. Between here and here is time to finish up your course, get all your, changes made and everything. So what I would do in your case is you're gonna have to just try to work faster and smarter and get it done by here. But we are
No,
gonna
I
teach
have
you
to
anything
teach them.
here.
Oh, you're gonna do that?
It's a
Yeah.
showcase,
So-
it's a party. Bring the baby. I wanna see a baby. I love babies. Yeah, bring the baby to the showcase. That'll be the best thing we could see that day. All right. Okay. I guess I could stop the recording
So this is like.
if I can figure out how.
Lecture. Is it more?
Yeah.